Welcome to How To with NADTC, where we tackle your big challenges in small doses. In today's episode, we're going to hear from Jane Mahoney on how to formulate effective survey questions so that you can ensure you're getting the information you really need on your next survey. Jane's a training and technical assistance specialist with Easter Seals and the National Aging and Disability Transportation Center. We're excited to have Jane kick off our series with this very important and helpful topic, writing effective survey questions. Welcome, Jane.
Surveys are a common and relatively easy and inexpensive way to get community input. This is an important part of delivering transportation programs that meet the needs of the people in your community. A survey that is carefully crafted can provide you with a lot of useful information that will help you evaluate your programs, find out what's working, what's not working, and help you discover services that might be missing. However, surveys that are not developed well can result in misleading and inaccurate information. Today, I will be talking about how to write effective survey questions that will help develop high-quality surveys that will result in valuable, constructive feedback. In order to develop a quality survey, you need to start by asking good questions. When your survey is made up of well-written questions, you will find responses that are accurate and reliable, which will give you insight and information to help improve your programs. Well-written questions will also provide you with data that is easy to compile and analyze. Finally, creating effective surveys is an important step when collecting public input for developing your coordination plan. In this video, I will be sharing some tips that will help you write effective survey questions. There are several things to keep in mind when writing survey questions. The tips I will share today are: use simple language, avoid jargon and acronyms, include a full range of responses, narrow the focus, and avoid leading questions. In order to help you understand how to use these tips, I will share some examples of questions that are not written very well and follow up with examples of the same type of question written more effectively. Following these tips will guide you to develop a more effective survey. The first tip is use simple language. Here's an example of a question that is not written so well. The question is worded: do you have health complications that restrict your ability to utilize the fixed route transit located near your place of residence? Yes or no? While this might appear to be professional, it is important to keep your audience in mind. Those who take your survey may have varying levels of education. Some may have some cognitive challenges, and there might also be people who have a limited vocabulary because they are learning English as their second language. I recommend that you write questions at a 5th grade level so the questions are easy to understand and therefore easy to answer. In this example, the question uses a lot of complex words that might confuse people, which means you won't actually find out how many respondents have health issues that impact their ability to use your transportation program. Here's a better way to ask the question: do you have health problems that keep you from using the bus near your home? Yes or no? By keeping the question simple and clear, the feedback you get will be more reliable. Try to keep your survey questions as short and succinct as possible and use clear, simple language so the questions are easy to understand and easy to answer. My next tip is to avoid jargon and acronyms. My example question asks, have you ever used ADA paratransit services through the AAA's 5310 program? Yes or no? While ADA, paratransit, AAA, and the 5310 program are well established in your vocabulary, people in the community likely don't know what these acronyms and terms are, so they won't know how to answer the question. We get so used to our own jargon and acronyms, we sometimes forget to write things out. Again, questions should be easy to understand and easy to answer. Try wording the question like this instead: have you ever gotten a ride from a van with a wheelchair lift by calling the Area Agency on Aging? Yes or no? Here I have described what the paratransit might look like instead of using its title, which would help people understand what you are asking about. And regarding your agency name, you will need to determine what people in the community know you as, which might not be the official name of your agency. Typically, you're going to want to remove jargon and acronyms unless the respondents would typically use the same jargon, then included in parentheses. Avoiding jargon and acronyms and using words that people are familiar with will ensure your questions are being answered accurately. My next tip is to include a full range of responses. The first example question asks, how often do you depend on family or friends for transportation? Always, sometimes, or never. In this case, the question is worded fine, but there simply aren't enough answer choices to get accurate data. My guess is that most people are going to choose sometimes as their answer. I mean, have you really never gotten a ride from a friend? Always and never are seldom accurate choices for people. Here's a better way to collect answers for this question. Again, the question is, how often do you depend on family or friends for transportation? But here, the answer choices are none of my trips, less than half of my trips, about half of my trips, more than half of my trips, or all of my trips. Providing a defined scale makes the question easier to answer and will provide you with reliable data to analyze. The next tip is narrow the focus. The example question says, please describe a challenge with transportation. This question is so broad that the answers will potentially cover transportation challenges that you are not evaluating. They might share a bad experience they had with an airline, or something they heard a neighbor complain about, or something that happened years ago. A broad question like this will also make compiling and analyzing the answers very difficult. Think about the type of information you are most interested in hearing about and narrow the focus around that topic. A better way to find out about challenges people have with your transportation program would be to ask the respondent to please share a challenge that you have experienced in the past 6 months using the city bus. In this question, the thing being evaluated is clearly the city bus. Using phrases such as you have experienced and in the past 6 months gives the respondent even more parameters in which to respond. This makes the question easier to answer and will provide you with reliable data that is easy to compile and analyze. My final tip is to avoid leading questions. Many surveys are full of leading questions, but if you want accurate data, please pay close attention to how your questions are worded. In this example, the question asks, I am comfortable using the new mobile app, yes or no? At first glance, this doesn't seem too bad, but it is clear that you are hoping people are feeling comfortable with the new app. Typically, people don't want to let you down, and they don't want to admit their weaknesses. They might feel embarrassed and just check yes because they don't want to say they aren't comfortable. Or they might not be completely uncomfortable, so will choose yes. This question will certainly have a disproportionate number of yes answers when it's worded this way. A better way to find out how your customers feel about the new app would be to ask the question like this. On a scale from 1 to 10, rate how comfortable or uncomfortable you are using the new mobile app. Then offer a number scale, being certain to label which side of the scale is comfortable and which is uncomfortable. Another option would be to list answers such as very comfortable, mostly comfortable, etc. The range of responses makes it easier to get honest feedback and usually a preferable way to ask a question as opposed to a yes or no response. The other thing to note here is that I've added the word uncomfortable right into the question. How comfortable or uncomfortable are you? When a question is worded in a way that only the negative or positive answer is displayed, it is considered a leading question. Since leading questions are so common, let's look at another example. Here the question states, do you agree with this statement? Transit programs for older adults and people with disabilities should be a top funding priority for ABC agency. Yes or no? Wording the question in this way makes it clear, again, what the hopeful response will be. People tend to be agreeable when responding to a value statement. Answering no to this question could make someone feel uncomfortable because it makes it sound like they don't care about older adults and people with disabilities. The agree-disagree format is not recommended, as the answers you get will not be reliably honest. Here is a better way to find out what people think the top funding priority should be. Which of the following do you think should be the top funding priority for ABC agency? Transit programs for older adults and people with disabilities, walking and biking paths, or city bus upgrades? Providing options of other programs that could receive funds will help elicit responses that are more representative of people's true opinions. They may be in favor of programs for older adults and people with disabilities, but are actually more interested in the city bus being upgraded, or they're more interested in improved walking paths. Another option would be to ask them to rank their answers. I would also recommend, if able, to change the order of responses to make it even more fair. The first answer response listed tends to be chosen more often, so listing your favorite program first can also be considered leading. This is relatively easy to do if you're printing surveys, but a little more difficult online. So if your survey is full of poorly written questions, there will be consequences. First, you will have response errors. Confusing questions or questions with too few response choices will not produce honest answers. You may find that respondents leave questions unanswered. If they don't understand the question or can't find an answer that's accurate, they might just skip the question and then you won't get their feedback. The feedback you receive will be unreliable. If you ask confusing or leading questions, the feedback you get may or may not reflect the truth. And finally, some people might get frustrated and simply quit taking the survey before they are done. Or worse yet, they don't complete it at all. They throw it away, which results in a lower response rate. Ultimately, poorly written questions lead to unreliable results, which means you won't have gotten a good understanding of your program's successes and areas in need of improvement. In conclusion, when you write your next survey, take the time and effort to make sure you're asking effective questions. As a result, the feedback you get will represent the community more accurately. And secondly, you will get a better response rate. A well-written survey is going to result in more completed surveys. Third, the results of your survey will be easier to compile and analyze when the questions are clear and succinct. And finally, people are going to feel good about providing input if the questions are easy to understand and easy to answer. This can help create connection with community members and help them feel like their ideas and opinions are valued. Remember, high-quality surveys will bring more and better responses that will help you to evaluate your programs. Thanks for watching and have fun creating your surveys.
Thank you for watching this episode of How To with NADTC. We hope you found this information valuable and practical. Be sure to check out our other episodes in this series for more helpful tips.